Hey guys, I'm Megan.
And I'm Stephanie. And we are
Barn Besties
with farm fresh advice for you. So we are here to impart the knowledge that we have learned over the years of building and running barns so that you guys don't have to have the problems and the misery and the mistakes that we made. Hope you enjoy our videos. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, right?
Right, and we hope to save you time and money on your new adventures.
Absolutely. Hey guys, it's Stephanie with Barn Besties. I am here today without Megan, my barn bestie who is in California. I'm here today with her barn manager, and we are in Megan's barn. It's January. It's freezing freaking cold. We have on, I told Ann, I have on so many layers, I can barely bend over to sit. But that's January in Wisconsin. We've got our heated vests. I got heated gloves. We're going to do the best we can do today before we both freeze to death. So I wanted to come over today to talk to Ann about her career over more than 2 decades. 2 decades?
18
years?
Yeah.
So almost 2 decades of managing barns. This is something Megan and I have talked about briefly in passing in other videos, but it's really important. I have a history. I've managed a few barns and then went into barn ownership. But I think people tend to forget, boarders tend to forget how important their barn managers are. So we want to kind of talk about all the things. And of course, with Miss Megan gone, it is left up to me to do the hello and how are you. So hi, thank you so much for joining us. I know this is nerve-wracking, but don't worry about it. It's just a cell phone.
Yep.
So you said it's been almost 2 decades. So how long have you been in horses? Like since you were a little girl, or?
Yeah, I started riding at the age of 2 with my mom. And then I went out of horses for a little while, and then I've had horses since 14. So it's 40 plus years.
That's awesome. I love that so much. What kind of horses were you into as a little girl? Did you have ponies or
quarter horses?
Yeah.
And Arabs.
Sounds very familiar. I feel like all of us kind of I feel like that was what was available. Although I've said in previous video, like I ended up in a saddlebred barn.
Yep.
And I didn't end up buying one right away. I was leasing, and so all that was available to lease was a saddlebred.
Right.
But everything else in the farm were Arabians and quarter horses. So very, very typical. Fun. My friends had Arabians and quarter horses. So yeah, nice.
They're fun.
Yeah, they're spirited. Spirited Arabians. Yeah, quarter horses are usually pretty good, although they can have their moments. But so, did you just start working in a barn? Like, how did you kind of move in towards? Was it by accident or was it planned?
Well, I started at a barn not far from here, and I worked there for a while, and then I moved from there when they closed down.
So, what did you were you just a general farm person, stall cleaning and stuff?
Yeah, taking care of the horses.
Did you help with feeding, or
did the feeding,
turn in and turn out, and all that?
All of that stuff.
So what was that like? I know here at Megan's farm, and my farm, horses, just due to the way my farm is laid out, and obviously Megan's as well, horses are individually let out, or at most in pairs if you've got 2 people or something. But
yeah, the first barn, they were just ran out. Okay,
so they had
that was not pretty.
No, I honestly, the first farm I managed had very similar situation. It wasn't a big barn. It was 12, 13 stalls, and the barn opened up to a very small parking area that was up near the barn. I mean, I think you could at most get maybe 3 cars in, and then the pasture gates were right there. Ugh. So I think the pasture gates were 40, 50 feet out at the most, and there was fencing all along. So there was only the actual driveway that we had to close off, and we roped that off when horses were coming in and coming out. And I mean, new horses were let in and out, but they were running in and out as well. So I think you do find that in some barns.
We had some accidents, horses falling down.
Yes. So did they have blacktop or concrete or dirt? Or?
It was the limestone.
Okay, limestone.
But then at the end of the aisle was concrete.
Sure.
So they go around the corner and they'd fall down.
One mare
lost a baby. Another horse was running down and caught its mouth on one of the halter hooks and ripped it from the corner of the mouth all the way up to the jawbone.
Oh, golly. Yeah.
It was horrible.
Very dangerous.
Another one, like when we switched gates at the farm, one mare ran into the wrong gate and busted her face all off.
Oh.
It was hanging really low. So
Yeah.
it's
Definitely
a lot of bad
not
accidents. I don't like
safe.
that. No.
No, and that's probably, we can speak to, that would be something if you're looking at, shopping around, so to speak, for boarding facilities.
Are the
finding out how the horses are brought in and brought out, and considering those sorts of safety options. I'm assuming it was a pretty large barn. I mean, as I spoke to my experience, it was only like 12, 13 stalls, so it wasn't huge. Was there like 30 stalls, 40 stalls?
92 stalls.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah.
Understandable why they would do that. I can't imagine turning 90 horses out by hand.
It was crazy.
That would require a lot of staff.
It
for
would
sure. So, okay, that's interesting. So did you help like feeding? You said you helped with stall cleaning. Obviously 90 stalls, that's a lot.
There was 4 of us doing that. So
okay. Yep. How did they do the cleaning? Did you guys have wheelbarrows or muck buckets or a tractor with a spreader?
Tractor with a spreader.
Okay, yep. So they drive it down the aisle.
Yep. And then the bedding cart with a 4-wheeler.
That's what we did.
Yep.
Yeah. And even actually on that note of the bedding cart with a 4-wheeler, when I got my property, I didn't quite do it like that, but I have a bulk bedding bin. And we had a little, it's not a big tractor. Had a little bucket on the front, but I would put down a tarp outside the stall and then tip a certain amount of bedding into the tarp and then just pull it into the stall in a big pile, and then you could kind of just spread it how you needed it.
Right.
Yeah, it just seemed easier, but
yeah, we
a little more physical because you are having to kind of heave ho on that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So how long were you kind of like, you're just considered like stall cleaner / general farm help?
Yep.
Were you fixing fence or
no,
anything like that?
Didn't have any fence problems.
Oh, that's nice.
Until horses tore them down with the gate situation.
Oh, okay. So it's mostly like gates and stuff. Yeah. So you didn't have to go out and periodically like check fencing or anything.
Yeah, owners kept up on that.
Oh, that's nice. You didn't have to do that. Did you do anything like dragging arenas?
Yeah, dragging water.
So you kind of started to move into
all of that fun stuff.
So, as a quasi more than stall cleaner at that place, were you helping with like farrier and vet too?
Yep, holding for the farrier.
So you were really morphing in towards helping.
I was more or less the management position without the title.
Right. Was there an actual barn manager or was it just owner?
The owner and a person that was a barn manager, I guess you could say. And it swapped so many people, so it was hard to keep track.
Honestly, it's something Megan and I have talked about, and I know I see it on social media. It's a big problem trying to find people to work in barns. One, the industry is not keeping up with the rising costs of farm and horse ownership. As a farm owner, you're getting the rising costs of owning the land, taxes and obviously the purchase price of the land. But then farmers are struggling too. So I've seen in the last, wouldn't you say like 10 years, the cost of hay
it's gone up a lot.
Has maybe more than like 15 years. It's, I think, 4 times the cost of what it used to be at a minimum.
Yep.
So for sure, that's been a struggle. And I think Megan and I are going to try to get into some of these conversations more in depth when she returns. Maybe do some live streams when she comes back. But I digress. Okay, so how long would you say you were kind of doing the stall cleaning / quasi assistant managing?
I was there for 8 years.
Okay, lots of good experience.
And then their barn shut down.
So let's talk about that first experience. I like to talk about pros and cons. You obviously talked about the dangers of the turnout situation or turn in and turnout situation of running these horses up and down these aisles. What other takeaways would you have as far as, let's just start with the cons. We can start with the negativity. Obviously, we just talked about a big one, but was there anything else there that you were like, I don't think I would do it like this? Like, how did they put grain in 90 stalls?
Well, we had a wheelbarrow.
Okay,
and it came out of the grain bin into the wheelbarrow.
Oh, so is it like a bulk grain
Yep,
bin?
and then
Okay.
everybody's supplements were on the stalls, so we just
Oh.
add the supplements.
So they had like a bucket or some kind of container on the stall front?
Yep.
Okay, so you had like a big wheelbarrow that was just full of loose grain. So
Sweet
everybody
food.
had to eat or
The same.
feed the same grain.
Yep.
If if a horse owner wanted their own and supplied their own, was
They
that
could, but they would only let the senior horses do that.
okay? Was that okay? So what did you think of that kind of? I mean, 90 stall, that's a lot of stalls.
It is
to
a
run
lot of
around.
stalls. I mean, I was glad everybody was on the same grain. Made it easier wheeling
Sure.
it around.
So did they have like how did you know what each horse got, or was it
We
like
had
everybody
stall
gets
cards.
okay, so
Stall
you had
cards.
nice stall card
Mhm.
labels and
Yep. So
Okay.
there was no mistakes.
so did you like that kind of way of feeding? I mean, if you think about how big that place
I mean, it was okay. It was quicker than, but like at the other job I had right before this job,
Mhm.
the owners would provide their own grain and make up their own baggies
okay.
with their supplements and grain in it, and we just gave it to them.
So you just
So it's different.
how did you do that? Like how big a barn was that? Like how many stalls or how many horses were you feeding? And like were the baggies, as you said, like on the stall fronts or in a
They are
grain
in
room?
the grain room.
Okay.
And we got like old lockers from a school,
Oh yeah.
which then we labeled for every horse, and then the owners would just put like a month's supply in there.
Oh nice. Okay.
So yeah,
I've definitely seen that. You
It works
guys, I'm
great.
not sure when this video is going to publish, but Megan and I have done some farm tours, and one of the more recent farm tours we did, they had gotten some
Yep.
lockers from
that's nice.
a previously remodeled school. I think you do see that quite a bit. It's kind of nice, but
Mhm.
okay. So, all right. Any other cons as far as that like large facility?
Large
Did they have
facility.
enough? Like, how did they have their pasture? You had 90 horses. Now, did they have rough board?
Yes.
Okay, so how many were in that?
Yeah.
I mean, I realize the numbers
Um,
can sway, but guesstimation.
There was
5, 10
at least 40, 50 horses, I think.
in rough board
At one point, there was over 100
on the property or in rough board.
in rough board only.
Oh my gosh!
When it changed management to some person.
Wow. So that had to have been its own really large field.
Yep. It was 27 acres, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how were they fed? Were they fed
Round
grain
bales.
or just hay
Yeah.
round bales?
They never got grained. That
Yeah.
was the owner's responsibility.
That makes sense. I can't imagine trying to separate out, 50 to 100 horses in a field and grain them. That makes sense. And I think that's somewhat common, I think, in
Mhm.
Wisconsin for rough board.
More people are getting away from having to feed other people's horses now. Just letting them do their own on rough board.
Sure. And that makes sense. I mean, unless you have like feed stalls or something outside there, if you have got a large,
hard.
that kind of herd, that would
Yeah.
be,
It's-
unless you like ran down like with a 4-wheeler or something and just unloaded a bag of grain, like
Right.
down 200 feet of,
But some
You
horses
know.
would eat too much.
right. I mean, it
Push
just
the
wouldn't
others
be,
off.
I think they do that with cattle, but I can't
Mhm.
imagine seeing that being a smart move with horse. And so understandable.
Yep.
Well, that's interesting. So
Mhm.
how were the horses watered? First of all, we'll say with pastures. Did you have tanks? Did you have
Automatic
hydrants,
waters.
tanks? Or they did have the automatic
Yep.
waters.
Except for the ones across the driveway where we had to have a big tank to fill them.
Oh, wow. So
yeah.
was it dragging like hoses or was there hydrants near each
We had
of
a
them?
tank on a trailer pulled by the
Oh.
4-wheeler.
Oh, okay. Okay. We've seen that before actually utilized in like watering arenas.
Mm-hmm.
A little different setup, I'm sure, but
We had the hose for that. By
Sure.
hand, that was a pain.
yes. So how did that work? Did they have electric out there for like, how did that work? We're in Wisconsin. I'm assuming this is in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what did they do in winter? So,
They had heaters
Okay.
inside the automatic water.
so they had electric out there.
Yep.
Okay.
And then the other ones across the driveway never got watered because
In the winter.
they were just like a 2-hour turnout and they were
Okay.
coming right back in.
Oh, so they were like stall horses and only
Yeah.
got minimal turnout
Yep.
for whatever reasons.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's, yeah. Because that's hard in winter in
Mhm.
Wisconsin.
That is-
Yeah, honestly, anywhere in the upper Midwest, upper northern states. I mean, look at us. I literally feel like I can hardly function because I got so many layers on. I'm warm though.
Yeah, I am too, actually.
Love my heated vest.
Exactly.
Okay, so horses got a couple hours out. They didn't have water. They came back in and got their water in
Yep.
their stalls. Not ideal, but
No.
I live in Wisconsin, and I understand. Yeah. So what did they do in their in the barn and the stall areas for water in the winter?
We just had buckets.
Okay,
No
buckets.
not heated buckets. So.
Yeah, not automatic
But they
waters.
never froze. They
Okay.
never froze.
So it must have been a large enough heated or insulated barn.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
So were you? Oh my gosh, how were you filling 90 stalls with water? Were you like dragging buckets, or did you have a hose?
We ended up putting up a water system above the stalls that came down to the buckets.
Oh, so you could turn it on, fill all the water, and turn it off and drain them.
Yep.
Oh, that's so. Did that work pretty well, or
That was awesome.
That's
that was really nice.
That's really nice.
That would have been a lot of hose.
Yeah.
On those long aisles.
Long aisles, big barn, 90 stalls. How many aisles was it?
3.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
so like 30 stalls in every aisle?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yep, that's a big barn.
Yep.
Wow. So, and then you helped with like arena maintenance and stuff?
Yeah, dragging it.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice. Okay,
Watering it.
you basically, that's pretty much where you kind of started your quasi barn management experience.
My obsession.
Okay, so you said, yeah, right? Any positives like from that first situation? Anything you took away and you're like, you just mentioned one, like the overhead stall watering system.
Yep.
You said that was really great.
That was great.
You would recommend that?
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk really quick about that. How did they do that? Like, was it, they have a plumber come in, pipe it,
copper pipe up above, and
then there must have just been some sort of
tees, and then it would run down into it like we'd put a screw of hose on it with a shut-off valve.
A little shut-off valve. Oh, that's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yep.
So you could be watering more than, like you said, there were about 4 employees. 4 people could be watering down the line at the same time. You could probably crank down there pretty good. That's really nice.
Quick.
So, and you were able to use that in the wintertime as well.
Yep.
Because
we drain
barn,
it every night.
Yep, and you drain it.
Yep.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yep.
So any other positives from that facility? You're like, I really like how that was done. I would do it. Did you like the way they built stalls, or did you like?
I mean, it wasn't bad, but
did you like their fencing, or did you like the automatic waters outside?
Those ones are okay, but we had float problems with those ones. They're older style. I don't care for them kinds.
Yeah, I get that. So like when I built my farm, everybody's like, you can put in automatic waters. Now, granted, this is like 25 years ago, and I hadn't really heard great things from people about, automatic waters, that they were having trouble with them. And so I did do the hydrants. Now, if I was starting over, I think I'm older. Body hurts a little more. My interest in standing outside and filling a tank in the middle of winter is farther and fewer between. But there are definitely positives and negatives to it. And now I feel like, especially with the dairy industry, I do feel like the automatic waters are so much nicer.
They're way better now.
They're way better. So any other positive takeaways from that first experience?
No. Yeah.
And you like, I would love to do this. Did you like, I'm just trying to come up with things.
Changed for like the cons. I would have changed a different size tractor for the aisles that we had to drive down.
Oh, okay. So was it too small, too big?
It was too big. It was a big Farmall M, and the tires were just about scraping the halter hooks.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah, you had to really be careful when you drove.
So either make the aisles wider or appropriately sized. That's understandable. Yeah, that's not great.
No.
Like tack room and stuff. Did you like how they had a tack room?
They had
did
lockers.
They have a tack room? Oh, they had lockers.
Lockers everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you in the Borders like the locker situation? I mean, everybody kind of got their, were they lockable lockers?
Yep. Yeah, you could lock them with your own lock.
Sure. Okay. So did that work pretty well?
It did. Until the mice. I mean, they had mice issues. It's not bad.
We have mice issues in any barn, unfortunately. But yeah.
But like you go to feed in the morning, you turn the hopper on for the grain to come out, and there's like 60 mice running out at you.
So that is gross. So that was from
I did not like that.
So was that coming out of the bulk grain bin then? Must have been some way they were getting in there. Okay, so that's a con. The bulk grain bin, you found that mice were getting in there.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and lockers, I mean, it's hard to have anything mouse proof in a barn.
Right, yeah.
I mean, we try our best, but honestly, they get into everything.
They do.
So Megan and I did a video, fall last year talking about like treats and lockers,
Mhm.
because treats and lockers, if you don't have them in a
Plastic container.
like a really well secured plastic container, all you're doing is inviting mice and
Yep.
chipmunks and squirrels and whatever other rodents.
Right.
So that's understandable. But so my thought here is we'd wind up kind of wind this down, talking about your first quasi barn management experience, and then we'll move on to another video to continue the conversation. So before we go, anything else you can think of like about how that farm was laid out, or created, the structures of the stalls? I mean, was there anything cool about the stalls? Did you like the stall fronts, or were they just
They're
basic?
The normal stalls.
Did you like the lockers, the tack room?
The lockers couldn't use improvement.
Sure. I mean, I'm sure they wore out with people,
Right. So many people
using them
coming and going.
and all that. But like, did you like, I don't know, the size of the arenas, or the size of the pastures, or did you like the fencing or anything
The fencing
remarkable?
was nice.
What did you remember what they used?
I was coated wire.
Okay.
Electric coated wire. And
Okay.
the arena was 100 by 200.
Oh, that's lovely.
Mhm.
Well, if you have 90 horses in a stall and 50 to 100 outside, I would assume you needed a large arena.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
I
Okay.
never had it outdoor though. That was bad.
Well, honestly, that arena sounds lovely to ride in year round.
Yeah, and 5 people easily can ride on there at one time.
Yeah, 100 by 200, you said?
Mhm.
Oh, that's lovely. Okay, so guys, I think what we're going to do here is bring this session to an end, and I am going to keep going with Ms. Ann here and make another video because you guys have been watching for a long time. It's time for a little break. We're going to do a part 2, and I think we'll talk part 2 for the next barn that you were managing, if that works.
Yep.
All right, so before we go, guys, please make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. We appreciate that so much. You can join our Barn Besties family. If you got questions, leave them down below in the comments. We always, suggest you do that. And if you click the bell here on YouTube, that will notify you when our latest videos are made public and uploaded. And appreciate it so much. See you in our next video. Bye, guys.